Hi everyone. I hope you are all having a good day today. It's in Massachusetts today. It's kind of windy and very breezy. Feels more like very early spring instead of towards the end of April, but it's okay. It's always a good day to be beading. So today I'm going to show you how to do a spiral rope necklace. And I'm just going to show you the beginnings of it. To make a bracelet or a necklace for spiral rope takes about, for a bracelet, about 3 hours. Necklace can take like 5 to 6 depending on how long you make it. So I'm just going to show you the very beginnings of it, and I will show you a demo later on this week on how I finish it with a clasp. But I'm going to show you the basics now. So first off, what you need to do is spiral rope. You need several supplies. First off, you need scissors and different kinds. I use Fiskars sometimes, and then I will use my smaller scissors for getting in closer for cutting thread. And you will need a pair of flat nose pliers, although it's not a must, but I really like to use them for this, and I'll show you why. You'll need to have some kind of nylon thread. I like using Fireline, and you can get it in crystal, what's called, which is like a white, and there's also a smoke, which is black. Hi Shelly, hope you're having a good day. So you use the different colors of Fireline depending on what kinds of beads you're using. I'm going to be using lighter colored beads, which is why I'm going to use the crystal colored nylon thread. You can get these things online. Even Amazon has stuff like this too. You can also get them at beading stores. Michael's doesn't always have something like this, but you can find this online. If you need any and aren't sure where to go, just let me know. I can give you pointers on where to find these things. You will need a beading needle. So I have different kinds that I like to use. Hi Wendy, hope you're having a good day. Beading needles are different than regular fabric needles that you would use for stitching like your clothes. Hi Marty. The beading needles are thinner, and as such the eyes are thinner. I will show you here. So they're super thin, you can see. And you can get the beading needles in different sizes. This is a size 10, which I like to use a lot. You can also get them in size 12s, which are even thinner. If you're using like super tiny beads, sometimes the 12s are better to use just because they can go through the beads many times more than a 10. But for what I'm doing today, a 10 is fine. And the beads that I get, the needles I get rather, these are tulips. And if you really get into doing bead stitching, I highly recommend these. Yes, they're more expensive, but you get what you pay for. Hi Cheryl, hope you're having a good day. And if any of you have any questions too while I am going through this demo, please just pipe in. I can see what you're typing and I can answer your questions live. So these are tulips, and yes, you get only a few needles in each container, and these are more expensive. These are like, you know, anywhere from $10 to $15 for depending on what size you get and how big the needles or small the needles are, versus some others that you may get like John James, which are only like maybe $3 or $4 for a container. But the tulip needles don't bend very much, whereas all the others I have found bend a lot, and so I wind up trashing those needles so quickly. So I started buying these, and usually I'll buy a package of these and they last for a really long time, like years, instead of having to go through like a whole package of John James needles within, you know, like a couple of months. So it's definitely worth the investment because these will last a lot longer. They're stronger, they don't bend so much, and they'll last you a lot longer. Okay, so you need beading needles. Then you need, of course, beads. So these are size 8 seed beads. And for those of you that don't know how seed beads work, the size number equals how many beads you will find in an inch of beads. So a size 8 means there are 8 beads per inch. So the larger the number of beads, a number on the beads, so like an 11 means there's 11 beads per inch, which means that the beads, the higher the number, the smaller the beads. So I like to use 11s, especially for this, because they're easier to see, and they also will bead up a little more quickly, and they're really pretty. And then, hi Natalie, hope you're having a good day. And then, of course, what you want to do for a clasp, some people like to use a regular metal clasp. I don't like using metal on this spiral rope stitch. I think the metal kind of takes away from how the beads look at the end. I like using like a vintage button to close it up as a clasp. So if you missed the start of my video here today, my demo, I'm going to just show you the beginning of how to do a spiral rope stitch, and I'll show you a little bit. But again, to do a bracelet, it takes like 3 hours from start to finish to make one, and a necklace anywhere from 5 to 6 hours to make one. So I'm not going to be on here the whole time because that would probably bore you to tears, but I'm going to show you the beginning of it for a little bit, and I'm going to then finish this demo, and I will pipe back in later, probably not today, but another day, and I'll let you know when. And I will pipe in with showing you how I finish it up with a clasp. So what I use instead of metal, I use a button. So this is a shank button. Okay, I use shank buttons to close it up. And Heather, hi, yes, the number of beads, yes, is how many there are per inch. So yeah, so that's one way of figuring out how to size your beadwork. So this is a really pretty button clasp. It's a shank button that has white and gold around the edges, which really kind of goes with the beads. So I often like to do more of a contrast, but I really liked the look of these. You can see these white ones here have like gold in the middle, and then these whites, these off-white pearlies, I just really liked the combination of them. So now I'm going to show you how to start, and I will do a few stitches how to do a spiral rope. Okay, so often, first off, when I take my needle out, what I like to do is I'll stick it up in, I don't know if you can see it, but I'll stick it actually up in my on my bead mat, and then it holds it up. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my nylon thread, my fire line, and you're going to need more than what I start with, and you can add thread on in different ways, and I'll explain how you can do that. So what I do is I start with basically, you don't want to start with too much, because then your thread will get tangled up really easily. And as it is with a long length, it can get tangled up. So you don't want to do too much at once, and you can add thread as you go. So what I do is I usually hold one end of the thread like so, and then I will stretch this out as long as my arm span will go. So I'm stretching my arm out, and then I've stretched it as far as my arms will go. So now I'm going to cut it. So now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to knot one end. So I have a little trick that I like to do because these eyes on these needles are so small, it gets really hard to see. So what I do, is I take my flat nose pliers and I smush the end of my thread. So you can see what the thread looks like right now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my flat nose pliers and I'm going to smush just the very end here. And I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. And what it does is it flattens the thread and it makes it easier to go through the ice. So now do you see that? How it's flattened at the top there? Okay, so now it makes it easier to thread my needle. So now I'm going to do that in the Hi Eliane, hope you're doing well. Excuse me while I'm threading my needle here. And excuse me for a minute everyone, I've got to put my brighter light on because I need to see what I'm doing here. And I know it makes a video a little more washed out. Now I'll move my high intensity light down in a minute so you can see things better. There we go. But these needles are really, the eyes are really thin. So, okay, so now I have my needle threaded. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my beads and I'm going to empty a bit onto my bead mat. And again, your bead mats are really handy to have because it keeps your beads from rolling away from you on the table. If you don't have a bead mat, you can use a piece of fabric. Felt is really good also. You don't need anything fancy, but you want something underneath your beads because it'll keep them from rolling away from you. So now I'm dumping a few of the beads of each color on my mat. Okay, so you can, the spiral rope, you have a core, the center, and then you have the beads that are going to be spiraling around. So you can pick out which ones you want, and in fact you should decide before you start beading which you want to be your core, the center, and then the beads that you want spiraling around. So I kind of like to have, I think, I'm going to have these white with the gold beads in the middle. I'm going to have this as my core and then have these more pearly beige beads go around the end. So, and by the way, these size 8C beads you can get all sorts of different places. You can get them online, you can get them in any craft store that sells beads. And I have all sorts of other places, if you really get into this, that you can order them online. I've got all sorts of resources. So if you're really interested in that, just let me know and I can give you great places to go. I have a lot of favorite places that are really good. Okay, so let's get beading. So now I'm going to start with my core beads. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 4 of my core beads here. And you can go one at a time like this and use your fingers and put them on, but I'm going to show you what I like to do because it's easier, and with these really fine needles you can pick them up actually with your needle. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up 4 of these core beads. So 1, 2, 3, 4, like that, and then I'm going to pick up 2 of the beads, they're going to start making the spiral. So 1, 2. Hi, Kelly. Yes, Kelly. Kelly was asking me if I'm using glass beads, and yes, these beads are all glass. And most of the seed beads you get these days are glass. You can find some that are metal too, but these are glass. So now that I've got my 4 core beads, you can see the difference in color here, and then my 2 beads for the spiral. So I'm going to slide the beads down, and what I want to do is leave about a 6-inch tail or so, like that. See that? A 6-inch tail, give or take. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through these 4 core beads again. But in order for me to do that, I have to set this down. Okay. So I'm just going to make sure I have about a 6-inch tail. Now I'm going to go through my 4 core beads here with my needle, again, going back in through the way that I initially strung the beads. So I'm going to go through them from the bottom. So I've threaded my needle through these 4 core beads, and now I'm going to pull my needle through. And you're going to see that the 2 beads on the sides are going to slowly spiral. It's not going to really be self-evident, but that's what it looks like to begin with. So there's my core, and here are my 2 beads that are going to start spiraling around. Hi, Tammy. Hope you're having a good day. So here's how it starts. You can see that now here's my 6-inch or so tail, which you're going to want to leave. But the beads are on there strong. I don't have to worry about them falling off at all. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue on. Now that I've got the 4 core beads in here and the 2 spirals, now I'm going to continue on. So now that I have those, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 1 core bead with my needle and 2 spiral to the outside. So there's 1 core bead and 2 spiral. I'm going to slide these down to the end. So that's what it looks like right now. You can see that there's now 2 new core beads and one new core bead and 2 spiral. So what I'm going to do now, this is where the fun really begins. Now I'm going to count back on my core beads. I've moved the spiral beads away so you can see. I'm going to count back 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my the 4 most recent core beads with my needle, like that, and which leaves the spiral outside kind of hanging out, and I'm going to pull the needle through and you'll see what happens. See if you can see the difference there. There is a spiral starting. Do you see that? Maybe a little hard to tell, but as I move these beads around a little, you can see that? So now what I do is you can just continue that same stitch over and over and over again until you have the length that you want. So again, 1 core, 2 of the spiral outside beads, thread it down to the bottom, count back 4 of the core, 1, 2, 3, 4, pull your needle through, and you'll see there's even a little more of a spiral showing there. See that? So I'm going to continue on. I'm going to keep going here so you can actually see the spiral starting to form. So 1 core, 2 spiral. When you first start it, it isn't as self-evident, but the more you continue on, the more it really becomes evident that there's a spiral there. So sometimes, like right here, I just put the 1 core and 2 spiral. Sometimes you have to flip the beads over a little bit to get to the core. So now I'm going to again count back 4 from the top of the core beads. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm going to slide my needle through those 4. Pull them straight. And there's a little more of a spiral showing. See that? So I'm going to do this again here. Hi Linda, hope you're having a good day. So 1 core bead and 2 spiral, slide them down. So you can see you have to be really careful at the beginning so that your thread doesn't get all tangled up. It's very easy to do. Then you're going to count back from the top, from the bead you just added, the core bead, 4, and the core beads, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to slide your needle through those 4. My most recent core bead decided to slide down there, and that's okay. You can just slip this through. Got my needle through those 4. Pull it up. Okay, now I actually have a spiral going through here. So I don't know if you can see, if I go like this, you can probably see a bit. Trying to put it against my dark shirt. Do you see how there's a spiral there? So I'm going to keep doing this a little bit more. So I'm going to do one more here, and then I'm going to talk about how to add more thread as you're going through here. So if this is something you want to do, it's, you know, I can show you how to do all of that. Okay. So I've done 1 core bead and 2 of the spiral. Now I'm going to go back, counting back through 4. And got 4, putting my needle through. There we go. So you can see that there's a spiral. See that? There is a spiral going on there. So to add more thread, there's different ways you can do it. Obviously, I'm not anywhere near being ready to add thread. I wait until I have, like, maybe, I don't know, about this much left. You want to be able to have enough that you can work with, so you don't want it to be too short when you're adding more thread. So one thing you can do is when you cut off, there's different people do different ways. Because I like to, some people like to go and weave their thread in through what they've just done and then cut off that working thread and then just weave a brand new piece of your thread from your spool, which you can do. And often that's what you need to do when the beads are really small. Or you can do something that I like to do, and some people may not like doing this as much, but I find it just makes it easier to hold onto the thread. It's less finagling of having to move and thread rethread your beadwork through. What I like to do is do a surgeon's knot. So the way you do a surgeon's knot is you take a piece of thread and you, I'm not going to do a knot right now, but I'll just show you without me actually doing it here. Okay. My thread's getting all tangled here. Excuse me for a second. Okay, I'm going to do the surgeon's knot. I'm just going to pretend on the bottom here. Now, the way to do a surgeon's knot, two different ways you can do it, but basically what you're doing is you're taking one thread over the other, like so, and then you're putting one end under. You can either do it one time or you can do it 3 times. So I'm going to do this 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And then you cross the ends over again. And then you put this one under just once, like that, so you have a loop. So you have a loop like that. And then you just pull it tight. I'm not going to do that because I'm not really ready for a surgeon's knot here, but you pull it tight, and you pull it as tight as you can. And then you can pull on the other ends too here once you have this loop here, just to really make sure everything is in there nice and tightly. And I will also demonstrate this when I'm getting ready to put the clasp on with the button shank. So, and that's how I do it, just because it's simple, it's easy to do. So I'm going to do this a few more times here just so you can see on the spiral. So 1 core bead and 2 of the spiral. Slide them down. Count from the top 4 core. 1, 2, 3. Slide your needle through those 4. And then you pull your needle all the way through. And you can see that there's definitely a spiral going on there. Move my thread out of the way, you can see. One second, let's tighten this up. There we go. Getting the thread out of the way. You can see there's a spiral going there. We'll do a little bit more here. So you can see it's a spiral forms. So 1 core and 2 of the spiral. Count back 4 core, including the new one you just put in. pull your thread through. I'll do this again here. So I find this very meditative because you're doing the same stitch over and over and over again. And I can just sit here and, you know, you can make this for as long or as short as you want. But yes, this does take hours to complete one. One second, my tail was getting in the way here. Hold on one sec. Excuse me for a minute. My tail was getting tangled up. There we go. Okay. You see that spiral there? See how it's spiraling around? Okay, do a little more. Again, one core, two spiral. And again, it is easy to get the beads tangled up. So, you know, it depends on how you like to lay your beads down. I kind of like to have my tail on this end so that I'm working kind of from right to left. I guess I suppose it's the Hebrew learner in me. But I just find it's easier to see the beads for me. So now I'm going to count 4 of the core beads, including the most recent one I put in. My needle through, or you can do it this way too, but I like it doing the other. I just find it's easier to keep track for me. I'm a righty, so I don't know if you're a lefty, you may prefer to have the beads facing the other way, and that's all, you know, your own personal preference. Okay, so 1 core and 2 spirals. And then count 4 back of the core beads. And you put your needle through those 4. Pull through. You can definitely see the spiral going there. You see that? So that's basically how you do a spiral rope. So this will take, like I said, if I was going to do a bracelet, this would take me, you know, 2.5, 3 hours to do if I kept sitting here the whole time and doing that. If I want to do a necklace, it could take anywhere from like 5 to 6 hours, depending on how long I wanted to make it. This actually is a project I've been wanting to do for a while. I bought these beads, these colors actually back in January when my mom was ill, and thought I'd be working on this while I was at her bedside, but things just happened, so I just wasn't able to work on them. But I really kind of like this color combination, just really kind of pearly and dressy looking. So I'm going to continue on here for a few more minutes, but then I'm going to log out, sign off, and I will continue working on this either today or later on this week. And when I'm ready to show you how to put the button shank on the clasp, I will go back live so you can see how that's done. Because I figured you don't want to see me here for the full 5 to 6 hours. It'd be kind of boring to see me doing the same thing over and over and over again. But I find that this stitch is just very meditative because you're doing the same thing over and over and over again. I often like to, when I'm beading, I always have music playing, except of course right now when I'm doing a demo for you, I'm not. I'll do a few more stitches here. One other thing, in case you may have noticed, when I was threading the needle, I have these high intensity lights. These are plugged in. You can also get them, they're battery powered. I really love them because I just have my overhead fluorescent lights on just because it's better for lighting for doing the demo. But when I'm not doing my demo, I use these a lot, and I'll show you. I'll put the light on. They're really bright, especially good for if you're doing any kind of crafting activity, because the light is so good. You can see it's like really super bright, and I find it just makes a difference, especially if you're doing things with smaller beads. You can just see so much better. And those are high intensity lights, so if you're looking for anything like that, let me know. I can tell you they're good places to find them. Yeah, I highly recommend them just because they're, and you can get some that are battery powered too, battery operated, so that you can just take them with you wherever you go. Okay, I'm going to do one more stitch here. And if you have any questions, please let me know. So again, 1 core bead, 2 spiral, slide them all the way down, count back 4 of the core beads, put your needle through. You can see that there's a spiral going here. See that? And you just keep going until you want to stop, until it's as long as you'd like. If you really enjoyed this and would like instructions on how to do the stitch, I do have actually written out instructions on how to do this. Actually has pictures of how to put your needle through, all of that. Just message me here or private message me, whatever you prefer, and I can send it to you. So I hope you enjoyed watching this. And again, once I have gotten this, I'm going to make this into a necklace. So once I have the necklace the length that I want, I will go back to Facebook Live, and I will show you how I'm going to put the button clasp on. This is a button with a shank. I will show you how I'm going to attach this and make the clasp. So I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you soon. Bye.